Hey, y'all. Day is the 7th, and as you know, I've been kind of slowing down a little bit. Just got a little burned out. I didn't even do yesterday. That was about 8 last night. It was like, I don't want to do this. So then I'm going to talk a little bit more about the P2, and it's only because someone asked a question, what would it be, this morning. So hopefully this gets out. Still need to catch up with the rest. I keep saying that. Um, so what we got here, the question is, dear breaking news, what is that xTool D1 40-watt machine, Kent and xTool P2? Okay, I think they're saying, because the person's from Africa, I think they're saying, what can the 40-watt do, or what can't the D1 do? Well, okay, let's start off. Metals. The P1 as a CO2 laser, because of the frequency of, what is it, 10,600 nanometers, cannot do metals. They can do powder coated metals or anodized metals, but not just like a straight shiny metal. I don't have anything straight shiny. Oh wait, like here's one. Even though it's got something on it, like if this was just a bare metal, it wouldn't be able to do anything to it. Boom. It's pretty much the only thing I've noticed that it cannot do. It can do things that a D1, aka a blue laser, cannot do. So the P2 can engrave on glass. Some people say it can cut. I haven't even tried to cut, but I'm pretty sure if you were to do it slow enough on thin glass, it would probably cut it. I may do an experiment to see if it does it or not. Also, plexiglass, also known as acrylic. You can engrave and cut all acrylic on the P1. For the D1, you can only do opaque. In other words, it's solid colored acrylics. You can cut and engrave on those. You can, on the D1 with 40 watt, you can engrave on metal, and in reality, thin enough metal you can cut. I'm hoping I can see it here. Okay, here we go. I was experimenting on a jar top, and this is with the D1 40 watt. As you can see, it's deformed, and the reason it's deformed is because it was just too much power, because at some points it was, up at 100%. It's completely deformed. Also, because of whatever frequency you're using, you can actually get colors. You can barely see it here, or at least I can barely see it. You can get some colors. And if you notice, you see right there, I don't know if you do it from the back, but you see there? There's a hole. It burned through this. So it can burn through metals. I believe this is a very thin stainless steel. I know you can do it through aluminum and everything. Speaking of aluminum, when I say engrave, it's not technically not engraving, it's marking, because this is fairly smooth, except for where it punched through. It's not going to be a clean if you're trying to burn through metal, but it will burn through metal due to this heat, but a CO2 will not. Neither one will mark aluminum, but they will do stainless steel, titanium, copper, things like that. If you want to actually engrave on all of the above, you need to have a fiber laser, which is at 1064 nanometers. I believe you should be able to cut foam on the D1. I haven't tried it, but I know I can do it now on the P2. You cannot do like the foam boards on the D1. You can, but it's an unholy mess. I tried it. So I was really hoping to be able to cut it out when I bought some foam board from Dollar Tree. But surprising to me, I saw it like early one morning where someone was cutting foam board with a CO2 laser, and I tried it. It works. Be very careful. You can catch the paper on fire because it has paper on both ends. So you got to dial in your settings really nicely, or else you're going to have a fire. Disadvantages or advantages of disadvantages. Let me read this again. So what is it that Okay, so they're just asking what the 40 watt can't do that the P2 does. I pretty much named it all there. It has very good penetration on wood. You can do stone. The real advantage of the P2 is it's more professional. You can do things. The advantage of the D1, and now I'm going to have to go into something interesting because I just got a text from a guy I sold a house to a while back. We've been in contact because he's in the lasers. He's got all the xTool stuff too. The more power you have in the laser, the higher your dot. So your spot size on the D1 40 watt is still smaller than a CO2 laser, but it's larger than the 20 watt or the 10 watt or the 5 watt. The 5 and the 10 have the same spot size. And where that matters is, let's say I got this yesterday at Lake Las Vegas. If I had, engraved this or etched this, well, a smaller dot size, you come up with a better detailed picture. That detail may not mean much for most people because you still have fairly tight tolerances. Like I did this here, Home Sweet Home on the P2. I was able to cut out all these little details and stuff. So spot size may not mean that much to you. You'll notice that when the D1 came out, a lot of guys on Etsy started using it for their stuff that they did for Etsy, but a lot of people are going to use a CO2, so it's more professional, even though I'm not planning on selling on Etsy. And if you were to go all out, what would a D1 do that a P2 cannot? Marking metals is about it. The other thing you get with the D1, it can be a larger working area because your engraving area on the P2 is about 12. It's actually 12.1 by 23.6, I believe. But you can actually hold in 14 by 26, I believe. Don't quote me on that. On the D1 Pro, with the extended rails, you have 17 by 35 inches, or 34, 33 maybe. I'd have to look it up. Because you're going to lose something, because another one is each one of the lasers that you get, the modules, is going to be slightly larger. So as you kept going up, 5, 10, 20, 40, it actually gave less space to work in that area. Again, we're talking about extended rails. Now, if you get the riser base, and if you look at my, I don't know if I published it or not, but there's a video where I show that there is a issue with the pass-through. And the issue has to do with, unless you build up certain materials, like let's say you wanted to do this wood, and the wood is, 2 feet wide and you want to do it 4 feet long, well, you don't need to have the conveyor, in theory. So in theory, especially because in light burn, there is actually a function. I don't know how to use it, but I saw somebody using it online. So I could technically put this in here and have a marker where I restart it, so I can then, which is, well, I'm sure like most pass-throughs should be working, move it and do the next section, move it, do the next section until I'm done. So you actually have possibly a greater area with the riser. They do have an issue that should be addressed, in my opinion, unless you build up something, maybe you could 3D print something or cut it out of wood, I don't know. Because you have a place where you normally slide it in if you didn't have a riser. For the riser, on the left you have 2 slots at the top, but there's only one at the top on the right, but that's not enough to get a piece of wood through. You need to be on the second slot, but there's no corresponding slot over here. I thought maybe I had a defective one until I started looking at videos and found out other people, it's not there, and no one's addressed this yet. I guess everyone is, who may have bought the riser base, bought the conveyor or something. I don't know. Because the next one is 1, and it's about this far down, which is too far for the wood. So you can do the whole pass-through thing. So that's one. But at the same token, all you got to do is build that wood up. And if you because what I did is I put it on a honeycomb. So you put it on a honeycomb or two if you have them. There may be other ways to build it up. You can get the wood up to the height that you need, and you can just slide it through, and then you got infinite. I've thought of some ways to do it on XCS to recreate that formula that you do in Lightburn. I just figured you would just cut it out to the parts you need it, and put like two little things on the side that have that are set to 0 or 1. We can only do 1, but for the power, and then that way you can line it up and then continue. And maybe do a little bit of overlap, because overlap's not going to kill you. Because with that detail camera, from what I've seen so far, you can pretty much put stuff spot on. So size, according to if you get that or not, you do a little jiggering around if you don't do the conveyor. But if you get the conveyor, it's unlimited. One thing that I do know that I can do, especially with the extended D1 that I can't do with the P2 yet, I still have to experiment around a little bit, is what I do is I make rugs for clients. You can get the rugs actually pretty cheap for about under $7 at Walmart. They're blank, the little coconut rugs, welcome mats, and I personalize them. You cannot do that only because of the size. They're like 17 by 30, which easily fit inside of the D1 extended. I was hoping to be able to do that with the conveyor, but there's not enough grip. So sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So I wouldn't rely on it. Let me see, what's another one? Again, that's one of the ones I'd love to be able to experiment. The only difference with experimenting with it is, I got to possibly try to burn a little marker. I don't really have too much more to say on that. I hope this answered your questions and you got out of what you needed, Sissay. And I'll just put a comment to come to look at this video so you'll know what's going on. Thanks a lot.